Scal, how we doing this week?
I should have punted on this call until after Game 5.
Okay. Well, so I get the tone. We played a clip from you earlier on the post-game show last night. We were just playing some of Perk and Eddie House going back and forth as well. But we played a clip from you earlier last night where it sounds like you think it's a series again, or at least you're questioning Miami. Maybe to put it more accurately, you're questioning what you saw out of Miami a little bit last night. Do I have that right?
No, I don't think you have that right. What I do think is, like when you're a superstar, stud, talented player, and you play with house money, and that's really what the Celtics did last night. They're playing with house money, and it's eliminating a team, and it's not an easy thing to do. And when you're just better than the guy that you're across the way from, then those things are a lot easier. But I don't think Jimmy Butler's going to have a problem, and I get it. Like Perk brought up a great point. Like the Miami Heat role players put away the Milwaukee Bucks, and they also put away the Knicks. But I don't know if they've faced talent like this before. So I am not saying they're not going to be able to do it, because those guys have been playing out of this world, this entire series up until Game 4. I'm just wondering if those guys who were undrafted, had to fight in the G League, all that stuff. I wonder if it catches up to them at some point, if the Celtics can, have a little bit of momentum at home, which I know they're only like 2-5 over their last 7 at home in the playoffs, and it's been not great. So I'm really curious on how we respond, because I don't think the pressure is on Miami. I know that Reggie Miller said that during the broadcast. I still think that we need to get a home game, and Miami's won 2 down here, so the pressure is still on the Celtics. But I'm curious on how if Gabe Vincent plays, Max Strus, like those type of guys, how those guys play in Game 5.
Scal, a terrific second half from Jason Tatum last night. What do you see different from Tatum when he's playing like that? I mean, it can't be just as simple as the 3 is falling, right?
No, I know that the Celtics always say that in the post-game press conference. Like, when we lose, it's we miss a lot of open shots, and when we win, we made some shots. But I think his decision-making, I think you have to look at its entirety. He was a -6 in the first half, but I really liked the way that he was trying to, get off the ball a little bit. The point of emphasis for the Celtics was to make sure, look, Miami's going to jam you up. They're going to put 2 on you. They're rotating out of it. You got to make quicker decisions. And I thought he did that in the first half, reluctantly. That's not in his nature, but he could do it. And I think he's at his best when he's getting off the ball early. And it only took 1. So he's already had, let's call it, I'll throw a number, 30, 35 touches. He only took 6 shots. And then all of a sudden, third quarter comes around. It was looking bleak, especially after Max Strus made that shot after he got blocked. He knocked down that 3 to push it to 9. And then Tatum knocked down that 1-3, and it was one of those situations where the way he did it, he was playing confident. He wasn't second guessing. So I think all those early touches in the first half helped him. I think those early touches in the first half allowed him to get a good read on what Miami was doing. And then once he made 1, the floodgates opened. So I think the biggest difference I saw was his aggressiveness in the second half. But I like the way that he approached that game of trying to get other people involved in the first.
Scal, after a couple of good games from Grant Williams, I know he poked the bear or whatever, but he was one of the only guys scoring in that fourth quarter. Looking back now at how he got buried in the Philly series and in the first couple games of this series, is this going to be one of those things that maybe Celtics fans look back on if they don't complete the historical comeback here and think, man, that was really a preventable error?
Yeah, I mean, I told you, I didn't think the Atlanta series wasn't it wasn't, listen, he's a good player, but it wasn't a great matchup for him. They didn't need guys like that. I thought they needed more offense in the Philly series. So he was, I thought he was much needed, and I think he's needed in this series. Miami's big, physical, tough. Philly's big, physical, tough. They have, you need defensive versatility, and he doesn't, I get it, he got scored on by Jimmy Butler. For the most part, I don't judge it based off of the end result. I judge it based off of are you tough? Are you holding your space? Are you owning your position? Grant Williams does all those things. And here's another thing, and this is not to go at Brogdon or anything like that. It's the playoffs. And with Grant Williams out there, I know 99% sure that he's just not going to take away possessions from Tatum and Brown. what Brogdon does. And it's no disrespect, like Brogdon was Sixth Man of the Year, and it's a great little. It's great to have that relief if you need it in a game when like your starters are only playing 36 minutes. Now those guys are playing 44 minutes, so it's a little bit different. So you need a guy like Malcolm Brogdon, but I'd rather have on the floor Grant Williams, who's just going to stand in the corner. He's going to flatten out the defense, and then Jason Tatum will allow that to happen because some of his assists to Grant Williams, some of Jaylen Brown's assists to Grant Williams. So it provides those guys a little bit of space, and it gives them more possessions out there. So I'm all for it in this series. I like the way he's been guarding defensively. I was a little surprised because I kind of told you guys, I guarantee that he plays a lot, plays a big role in the Philly series, and I was surprised that he didn't play a bigger role in that series.
Talking to Brian Scalabrine, as we do every Wednesday here on Jones and Mego with Arcand on WEEI. He joins us on the Harbor One hotline. Scal, we were playing a little bit of Perk and Eddie House going back and forth last night about, the Adrian Wojnarowski report about Ime Udoka and the Celtics still missing him. Brian Windhorst wrote there could be big changes. Everything's on the table. He did that earlier in the week. There was a report yesterday from Kevin O'Connor at The Ringer that the players are done fake liking each other. What do you make of some of the reports about, fractures and issues within the team? And do you think part of what the Celtics were feeling early in this series is understanding that maybe this could be an endpoint for this group?
Wow, that's a lot. We'll start with the Woj thing. As far as like that, so players in general should be careful because it's above their head. Like they just can't make the decision on things like that. I'm sure legally there's issues with that. And as far as if you thought Joe Mazzulla wasn't the guy at the time, they couldn't hire another head coach because Ime Udoka was suspended and you'd have to be an interim coach from somewhere else. So it's a complicated matter. As far as the players fake liking each other, I think that's probably a good thing. I don't know if that's happening. All we heard all season long was how great this locker room was. All of a sudden, you go down 3-0 to Miami, and now all of a sudden we're fake liking each other. So I don't know who's giving what information, but I will say this: from being in a locker room, right? Everybody sees things through their own lens. And listen, and NBA players, they're normally surrounded by people that tell them what they want to hear in a way they're not going to challenge them. So if you say you don't like something, I'm sure the response is, yeah, you're right. So, you should be the man. You should get more playing time. You should get more touches. How come you're not playing? You're so much better than that. All that stuff happens, right? Now, these guys saying these things are saying it from one person's perspective or two people's perspective, which, as you guys know, you work in a normal place, everyone values life differently and values the way the company runs differently. And that's just how it goes. And some people overvalue themselves, and some people overvalue their self-importance. That's life. And that's in the NBA. And it's probably also like that in other places. So, I don't think that you have to be best friends. I know Chris Forsberg tweeted out that you went to Topgolf, right? And now all of a sudden things are good.
Right.
No, what happened is you defended. You played hard. You played with some sense of urgency. And whether you went to Topgolf or didn't, I don't know if that makes a difference. But once again, that's from my lenses. Some other people, they might think we need to go bowling and that's going to make the biggest difference in the world. Then we won, yes. And that's how other people look at it. I happen to not. I know players that don't get along, that get along unreal on the court. Shaq and Kobe, they were unbelievable together. Hard to stop. They didn't get along. It's just the way it goes. So all that stuff is, to me, it's nonsense. It's just one individual's perspective and how they're looking at it or how it affects their personal life. I hardly ever come across, besides a Jason Kidd and the Kevin Garnett, for the most part, this is the gray area, most people are looking out for themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's the reason why you get to where you're at. But besides those two guys, those guys, in my opinion, were always about the team. And those are the only two guys in 11 years, and I was on 8 of those teams were probably NBA championship caliber teams. And I really believe there was 2 guys that stood out as just about the team.
All right, he's Brian Scalabrine, NBC Sports Boston. Check out his work there. Scal, we'll talk to you next week. Hopefully the Celtics are still alive. We'll see. Fingers crossed. Right. And, we'll be following your coverage. Thank you, Scal.